Fenton is going to join us. We are going to call him via the magic of the old Skip Skype, the old Skype-a-rooney. We're going to call that number, and we're going to see if we can get Bruce Fenton in here.
Your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. 603-957-6300 is not available. At the tone, please record your message. When you have finished recording, you may hang up or press 1 for more options.
Bruce, it is James Lowe giving you a call. I was chatting with my attorney, and I didn't get a chance to get you on the phone here. Give me a call back. I would love to chat with you, my friend. We'll talk to you soon. Have yourself a blessed day. We're going to go, hopefully, to IQ Al Rassolli and Dan Perkins as we...
Well, I don't know about IQ, but I'm here.
But we have quite the show today.
Yeah.
It is Dan, IQ, and myself, and we are going to talk about all sorts of interesting things today.
Okay.
So Dan,
Yes, sir.
first of all, what did you think of Biden's weird speech that he gave?
Which one?
The one that had the soldiers in the background and looked like it was like straight out of the video game Command and Conquer.
Okay.
It was so strange.
That was the Thursday night speech.
Yes, that was weird.
Friday morning, he denied everything. And then Friday afternoon, he basically gave it again. Everything he said the night before, he said again in the afternoon. So I did a couple of interviews today, 3 or 4, and I've been telling this story. So let me tell you.
Okay. Yes.
The story.
Tell me the story. Yes.
I have now become convinced that there is a definitive strategy that's going on in the Biden White House.
Okay.
And this is the strategy. Make the most outlandish statements you want to make. Wait and see what the reaction is. And then either deny it or apologize for it and move on. Now, let me just give your audience a clue. If a television reporter reports a story that's, at least it used to be this way, Jim, reports a story that's not true or they've misstated the facts, then the news organization has a requirement under FCC rules to go back and make a correction. And the newspapers do it. I've done it for years and years and years, decades, centuries. Television and radio do the same thing. However, the impact of the initial statement is much greater, and it affects a much greater number of people in the audience than the correction. And so if you say, it's actually raining elephants, well, here's a better one. Here's one that just happened, okay? Happened Friday. Forget about Biden. The crack press secretary for the President of the United States said, when speaking about the jobs number, in President Biden's term as president, he has created over 10,000 million jobs. Now, 10,000 millions is 10 billion jobs. That's more people than in the world.
That sounds
Okay?
that sounds like that sounds like something you would hear out of like a 4-year-old, like
Oh,
millions
well,
and billions.
there you go. That's her. So today they finally, and Ducey went after her saying, come on, that's 10 billion people. There aren't 10 billion people in the world. But she was going to let it, stand. 10,000 million. So, but what I'm saying to you, Jim, is that I think there's a strategy in the White House for President Biden or anybody in the administration to make outlandish statements and wait and see what happens. And you can always walk them back because how many times, Jim, have we heard reporters say, well, the White House was out back taking back what the president said. They're
Yes.
walking it back. They're walking
Yes.
it back. Here's the interesting part of the story, in my opinion. No major network carried the speech. No ABC, no NBC, no CBS, not even NPR. The only networks that carried it were MSNBC and CNN. So my question to you, since that's true, the question is, did the other 3 or 4 networks get copies of the script before it was done and decided, I'm going to take a pass on this one. I'm not going to get involved in this worse than deplorables statement that the president made. I put out a video after that happened, and I compared Hillary's campaign, the deplorables statement that she made about Trump supporters, and right next to that was Biden's comment on Thursday, of the half the people in this country are against this country, and they're socialist or whatever he was trying to say. Another example of this out and out lying. When Biden says, we've always been in favor of funding the police. Really? Really? Joe? Yeah, we've always been in favor of it. And the reason why the schools weren't opened fast enough is because the Republicans didn't allow it to happen, even though the Democrats were that party in power. So what I'm saying to you is that what I'm hearing now is they're saying anything they want to say. They don't have any accountability to it, and when they try and walk it back, they walk it back, and the press lets them get away with it until they go on to the next one. Now, as to the content of the speech and the tone and tenor, I would love to know 2 people's names. And I've got one this afternoon that I've been told is pretty reliable. The first question is, who wrote it, or who had input in writing it, and then who orchestrated it? Who decided to take the president to Philadelphia, put him in front of Independence Hall, lit up with red and blue, and put his toy soldiers behind him up against the wall like the British gendarmes? So I want to know who did those 2 things, because those 2 people need to be fired immediately. But Jim, they won't, because nobody gets fired in the Biden administration. No matter how bad they screw up, nobody gets fired. What?
Maybe at the very beginning, I know that Joe went through, and anybody who was on his staff, these were all like college kids and people like that. If they had smoked weed, thought about weed, or been involved with weed, they were gone. Right. But IQ Al Rassolli, what do you think of what Dan's saying here, my friend?
Well, of course, I agree with Dan. I mean, we're talking about the most incompetent human being on the planet, called Joe Biden. Not only incompetent, But what Dan is missing, with all due respect, every single word uttered by that stupid mouth was called projective identification. You know what that means? It is the Democrats who are the fascists. It is the Democrats who are undermining the Constitution. It is everything he threw on the Trump people is exactly what the Democrats have been doing. It's called projective identification. They project their own, evil upon the Republicans. But the evil is themselves. They cannot look at themselves in the mirror because it's scary. The visuals of Biden with the red background reminded me of Hitler. The only difference was it's black and white during Hitler's time. But it's exactly the same. Exactly the same visuals. And the speech was exactly the same. Hate-mongering, war-mongering. Dan, do you agree with that?
Absolutely, I do. The reason why I was asking the question, IQ, about who did the logistics, to put him in front of, if you wanted to make a really strong point, to put him in front of Independence Hall and put a white light illuminating where he was, because people looked at it and say, where is he? This dark red and you could see the tinges of blue on either side. But you couldn't tell he was at Independence Hall based on the way it was lit and the way the cameras were. So I don't know who's given him the advice of his visual images. And I was told this afternoon that the person in the know in Washington said that Susan Rice had a hand in writing the speech.
That's not impossible. By the way, may I say something? What's happening in Europe, as far as I getting the information, 2 days ago there was a huge demonstration in the Czech Republic. Do you know that?
No, it would never been on the news here.
Exactly. 70,000 Czech Republic people went out on the street, and guess what their banner said? Czech Republic first.
Say it again, please.
Czech Republic first. America first.
America first. Okay, I got it.
That's exactly what they had, exactly what Trump used to do. Czech Republic first. They're not against the Ukraine. These are people who are hurting. And I'm writing an article right now as we were talking, saying that this is going to be like a volcanic magma. Is brewing, and if the leaders in Europe do not listen to their people, there will be bloodshed, no question. Because people are hurting economically. And when I have a child, and when anybody has a child, a wife, their priority is their family, not Ukraine. True, they have sympathy. I understand that. They want to have political sympathy, no problem. But when it comes to economics, when it comes to livelihood, this is number one in life. You can't beat that. It's impossible. The only time you can beat it is when you have 38% of brain dead Americans. Then you can beat it.
The other thing, Jim, following what IQ was saying,
yes.
How many? You say 70,000 IQ?
Yeah, 70,000 people.
So what I heard again, that the one of the reasons why the major networks did not carry the speech is that they, quote, thought it was too political, and that the president is not announced that he's running for re-election, so there isn't a need for a political speech. Number two, the concern was, if you noticed, if you watched it, and I watched most of it, I didn't watch all of it, there were never shots of the audience because the rally had about 300 people.
That's always the rally. 300 people is the maximum you would ever get. Sometimes 2 people.
Now, on Friday, Trump had a rally where thousands upon thousands were at the rally.
Why 20 to 30,000? Why thousands upon thousands? 30,000 people.
Yeah, I understand. But the point I want to make is this: that there was another event that happened on Friday, which to me was more important than Biden's speech on Thursday night.
What was that?
And that was the federal court deciding to appoint the special master
You're right.
to
I agree with
take
100%.
away the responsibility of verifying the documents that the FBI took, because she, in essence, if you read the transcript of her order,
I read it.
she was basically saying that she didn't trust the FBI.
Correct. Yeah. But that was a really good show for Trump, really. One of the few items that he was able to win. Under the circumstances, considering you have no legal system, at least no justice, that's for sure. Not
Now,
against.
I was asked this morning on a show that the Justice Department has not decided whether or not they're going to appeal the ruling from the court. And I said the conventional wisdom would be that since the federal district court and it's a matter of interpretation of presidential powers, that that it could possibly be appealed. The Justice Department is not at the moment saying whether they're going to appeal or not. However, I've said in this morning's interview, the Justice Department is probably going to appeal, because the appeal process, unless the Trump people are able to convince the court all the way to the Supreme Court that this needs to be fast-tracked to the Supreme Court, will not be there before the midterm elections. So the uncertainty of whether or not who's been lying, what's there, what the truth is, if they decide to appeal it, my guess is the court will not allow obviously the special master will not be appointed. And so an independent third party will not be in looking at the documents taken by the Justice Department until after the midterm elections, if it goes to the court that fast. So they don't want it. I believe they do want to appeal it. And the person I was speaking to this morning said they don't want to appeal it. I said, I think they want to appeal it because it continues to let it hang in the air and allows the Democrats to run on it while they're waiting for the court to eventually decide. If they choose not to appeal it, then in my opinion, that the Biden administration and the FBI is in Justice Department's in serious trouble, because they released over the weekend a more detailed list of things that the FBI took. Clothing, really? That makes a lot of sense? No. Roger Stone's pardon? No. That doesn't make any sense for doing stuff. So there was a lot of stuff taken that doesn't fit within the general confines of what they were trying to do. And now we know that the photograph that showed all the documents was manufactured, in the sense that this is not how the documents were kept. They weren't connected. They weren't on a floor of a closet where anybody could walk in and walk on them. They were laid out that way by the FBI. And so I think the judge did a very important thing. She raised the question of the integrity of the FBI, which could lead to some other serious problems. For example, the ultimate investigation into Hunter Biden, when it comes.
Will it ever come?
Yeah, will it ever come? I don't know. I really don't know whether it'll happen or not. But it's clear that he was involved. And the latest story that I heard Saturday, Jim, was that the Democrats, based on the performance on Thursday night, have decided that they can no longer trust Joe. And so shortly after the midterms, there's going to be a coup. Kamala, is going to take over. I don't know if it's true or not, but apparently a lot of the Democratic leadership has just had it with Joe. I mean, there
Well,
was no reason for him to make the speech the way he made it on Thursday night.
You mean nobody else knew about it? I don't believe that. I
Nobody
cannot
else.
believe. Sorry, I cannot believe that nobody else in the Democrat Party didn't know about the speech. There's no way.
Well, I hear what you're saying,
Yeah.
IQ. I just think that as I read a piece over to yesterday on the holiday was saying the Democratic leadership and the Democrats in the White House are amateurs at best.
Well,
And I think that they have tremendous egos, that they believe they know what is correct, and therefore they don't have to check with anybody. They do whatever they want to do, and whether they think about it or not, they just go do it. And I think it's amazing. But the other thing is that I wanted to point out is that I you may have seen the stories about how the generic congressional ballot is tightening with the lead shrinking that the Republicans have.
who is
And
deciding that?
I'm sorry?
Who is deciding this kind of statistic? Democrats.
The mainstream media.
Yeah, that's it. So what am I going to Am I going to believe the mainstream media? Maybe I should commit suicide first.
Well, if you commit suicide, then you
wow.
couldn't read the article. So,
I'll tell you what. My bottom line is simple. If the economy goes bad by the time of 2022 November, I don't care about anything else. The voter will decide against Joe Biden, no question. Any voter with two brain cells of logic, if his economic situation is dire, cannot possibly support Joe Biden. Irrespective of all the other political issues, forget it. Nothing. The bottom line, the economy. Stupid. Do you agree or not?
no, I think
Yeah,
but it is, but see that the Democrats are in the process of redefining the definition of recession. They're redefining the definition of women.
They
They're
can
in the
redefine
process
God also. What am I supposed to be believing what was saying? For God's sake, what are we discussing? It's not a kindergarten. We're talking about grown-up human beings whose economies are being shrinking, their income is shrinking, the K401 or 401k or something is going to be a hit. That's what I heard. You know, your savings.
Yeah, there's no question that those things are under attack. What's happening? I did another show this afternoon where people who are strapped for money are violating and or not violating, but going in and taking money out of their retirement plans. There was a story this afternoon that 40% of the people in this country cannot handle an emergency expense of $400.
So tell me, how will these people go to the voting booth and vote for Biden? Please tell me. Come on, tell me. I want to understand how you do it.
That's a great question, and I can't take credit for the answer. I will give credit where credit is due.
Go on.
The answer I'm going to give you is from Rush Limbaugh. Rush Limbaugh says that Democrats are liberals first and everything else second, so that they don't care whether people are poor or starving or whatever. They have an agenda, the liberal agenda, the woke agenda, whatever it is, and that's the most important thing. And so they'll give up everything else in order to deal with the agenda, and that's what's happening in our country today. I saw interviews of people in San Francisco who were giving Gavin Newsom, the mayor of California, or the governor of California, all kind of accolades for the job that he was doing. While the cities are burning down, the streets are covered with feces and needles, and people are dying like crazy. But they give him an A+ because he's a Democrat. He's a liberal.
These are the rich Democrats. They're not the man in the street Democrat. I think there is a separation in this.
There definitely is. There's the corporate Democrats, which is, Biden and John Podesta and all these guys, and then there's the, the actual Democrats that don't have any power. And
they have the power. They have the power because when they go for voting, they should not vote for Biden. They have all the power in the world. Everybody has the power.
Well, moving on to our next topic here. I cannot. I have to ask Dan Perkins about this. This is such a strange. We live in such a strange world.
Yes, we do.
I personally think that the societal engineer